Good evening, everybody. Good evening, good day, good afternoon, wherever you're located. It's the evening here where I'm recording this, and this is King Bob coming at you from King Bob's Kingdom. I'm going to create a little video here today out the Boeing, or the PMDG Boeing 777-200ER, which, as you probably already know, dropped the other day. I picked it up. This is in 2024. Finally happy to have a real Boeing plane in 2024, not the Soba default ones, because they're pretty horrible. But I figured I would create a little video to go from cold and dark, taxi. I needed to go over my flow basically for this because I'm so used to flying Airbuses and GA stuff. This is a little bit of a different beast than that. So what I did was I created a Word document with my flow. It's not real world, close enough. I used a few, or watched a few videos of people flying the 777. British AV Geek is one of them, and Jonathan Beckett. And, there was another, and I can't remember his name, and I apologize for that. But I created my own little checklist or flow basically to get this beast going, and this is truly a cool beast. So this is the 777-200ER in United, and we are at Everett or Payne Field in Everett, which I believe is pretty close to the Boeing factory. This could be the Boeing factory over here. You see there's a lot of Boeing jets out here. Airliners, everything from, you know, cargo to passenger, everything in between. This isn't default scenery. I don't remember who I got this from, but I'll add that to the description in the link. But like I said, we're going to take this beast from cold and dark to taxi, takeoff. So go for it. So inside the cockpit. So the first thing I do anytime I get a new plane is I create some views for it. So my views are pretty simplistic. I like CDU, overhead, EFB, and then I create an engine right view, an engine left view, a wing right view, and a wing left view. And then I also create a close-up view in the cockpit as opposed to the default. I got a pedestal view. I also have a view which I like to use for different things, primarily checking my legs and flight plan on the MFDs. So let's get this beast going, and I'm gonna again go off of a document I created, following other people's procedures. Again, this is not real world. I don't claim to make this real world. It's, you know, it's enough to get the plane up and going for me. I don't do all the safety checks. I probably skip a billion steps, but this is enough to get the plane going. So figured let's test it out. Let's see if what I created actually works. So first step I have is pre-flight. So I've already created a flight in SimBrief. So the first step is to go to my EFB and request the data from SimBrief. And I just created a simple flight from KPAE down to San Francisco, KSFO. So you request new data from SimBrief. It will load that into the plane. The other thing I like to do first is go to ground operations, make sure my ground power is connected, which it is. If it wasn't, it wouldn't say release. I think it would say connect. Let's try it. It would say request. That's it. So if it says request, it's not connected. And I believe if we go to the external view, yeah, there's no GPU connected here. So we're going to request the GPU to connect. And there's our GPU. See it right there. And it's got some cables that run back up into this beautiful Boeing 777-200ER. So back to the flight deck. So that's my first step. I like to load up or request the data from SimBrief and make sure my ground power is on. So then the next step is I go up to the overhead, and we could tell that the ground power is connected because it says avail on both the primary external power and the secondary external power. So first step in my flow is battery to on, external or primary external power to on, secondary external power to on. And the plane will slowly start to come to life. Take some time for the displays to show here. Could be a setting to make that happen faster, but you know, we'll let it do its thing. Just like to wait till we get. You can hear some clicking and clacking back there. Sounds like some fans are coming on. It looks like my CDU is starting to load up here. I used to calling it an MCDU. That's Airbus speak, as we say. But we're in the Boeing world now. And as the 777 starts to come alive, we can go take a look at it on the outside here. PMDG did a beautiful job modeling this plane. Actually, I could do a walk around of it, huh? I could have my little avatar out there walking around. This plane's huge. Those big, those are the GE engines, GE90s. They did such a great job with this. I mean, this looks fantastic. And by the way, it flies really good too. Walk around here. Engines are monstrous. Get the heart rate up, run a little bit. I'll take a look at the nose. Look at how gorgeous that looks. Okay, let's go back in the plane. And looks like we have some of our displays starting to come alive here. So the next part of my procedure is we turn the I don't know how to pronounce it, ADIRU on. That's the ADIR's in the equivalent in the Airbus world. So we set that to on. We set the in-flight entertainment and the cabin utility both to on. Emergency lights, we're going to go to armed, and then we're going to cage it. Window heat can all come on. Basically what we're trying to do is extinguish any of these amber lights, I guess you could say. No smoking on. Seat belts. We're going to turn to auto. Verify the navigation light is on, which it is. And what I like to do is go down to the pedestal. and just turn a transponder to standby for the time being. Now back over to the EFB. Again, we would request new data from SimBrief. That will load in our SimBrief flight plan. Then I like to go to the weight and balance, and I like to import that from SimBrief. And then I like to do my performance tool now also. So we know, let's take a look at it. I'm going to use the built-in EFB in 2024 with the SimBrief plugin. So we could take a look at things like our flight plan and any relevant information here. So we know the departing runway or departing airport is KPAE. We're departing 34L. So we'll select that. I'm going to import the aircraft information. I'm just going to leave it at optimum and optimum for the flap config and rating. Import the weather. Calculate. This will all come in handy later. And we can close this out for the time being, and we can go back to continue our flow. So at this point, I like to program this CDU. So we'll go down to the CDU, MC, press pause in it, go to the second page, copy. You know what, let's clear out the scratch pad down here. We're going to copy the GPS location by clicking this key right next to it. I'll place it down in the scratch pad, and then we will go back to the previous page, and we are going to paste that to set inertial pause or position. And that's pasted in. If we look up here, we can see now that should be our location where the plane is parked. So back down to the CDU. So it kind of walks you through it. Not, well, walks you through, it's the wrong word. It points you in the right direction. So the next thing you would do is click route, or what I do is click route. And then click on route request. This is the SimBrief route that we've already created. So we will click that. Set payload, coming from SimBrief. Set fuel, also coming from SimBrief. We'll clear those two. Then we'll click on select RTE. And it's going to request that route to be loaded or sent to the plane. We give it some time here. Excuse me. Once you hear that chime, that has been uplinked to the plane. So then we can click on load, and it's going to load it. Excuse me. Got a frog in my throat tonight. I think I need a sip of beer. And tonight's video is brought to you by Jersey Cyclone. Clarity, Hellas Lager. Delicious. So after it finishes the uplink, clear all that out, you have to click activate. Once you click activate, this is key here in the Boeings. If you see the exec light lit up white like that, click it. Basically saves that change, or executes that change would be a better way to put it. We click on execute. Now that should be, our route should be uploaded to the plane. So now going by my flow here, perf init would be next. So we'll click on perf init. And it's telling us right here, hey, do you want to accept or reject the perf init data from SimBrief? We click on accept. We double click the button next to 0 fuel weight. One click, 353. Going to enter it in. And this all kind of jives with 353, 0 fuel weight right there. The weight and balance as we imported from SimBrief. At that point, we go to the legs page, route data, wind data load. This is going to get our wind information for the route. And you can see, anytime you see that white light light up above exec, always press it so you can load that in or execute those changes. So we're going to click on execute. Now we will have some wind information loaded. At that point, I like to then go to set up my departure and my arrival. So you click on DEPA-RRV, and it's going to pull up your departure airport here, which is obviously KPAE. And let's go to the flight plan down here, and we are departing from runway 34 left. So we'll choose that. You would enter, you know, stars, transitions, all that good stuff in here, but there is none for this. It's just going to be direct to that waypoint, HJROB Harbor, I guess. And again, anytime you see this lit up, click execute to save that change. Then we click index to go back. Now we want to give it the arrival information. So into San Francisco, click on arrival. This says 28R, so ILS 28R will be the runway. Bodega 4 for the star. Looks like we have a transition of MLBEC. Again, don't forget about the execute, telling us, hey, commit those changes. So let's execute that. That will get our route in. It will get our departure and arrival information in. Stars, SIDS, transitions loaded into the plane. So now we can go to the legs page, and what I like to do at this point is I like to verify my route. So you can just basically next page this. You could view this. Like we're going to have some vectors here. You're looking for vectors or discontinuities in here, discos as I call them. The other thing I like to do, why I created this view, just switch this over to plan. And you could use this in conjunction with this to get a visual representation of your flight plan. See, we are taking off from KPAE, and you can step through this by clicking the step button here. This will literally step through your flight plan, and you could look for any discos or anything odd. Make sure it looks logical. You can zoom in. You can zoom out, so you can see we're coming up to Ricks, and then it heads us into vectors here. At that point, obviously, we would get vectored from ATC. Clear this out if you want to. I wouldn't. I would wait till you get to that point and either use some ATC beyond ATC or stay intentions to vector you in or make it work. When I say make it work, you can vector yourself basically to the next waypoint from bricks to Sepin. You can see you're basically going to come this way, hit bricks, and then you're going to be on this path forever, literally. You could just vector yourself to Sepin to set yourself up for, in this case, 28 right. So that looks cool. You don't have to do any of that. I recommend doing it just to make sure everything looks logical. And once that's done, go back down to the CDU. And I like to click on VNav. We'll go to page 2. Click on forecast. Click on load. That is going to load in the wind from the information we got earlier. See up at flight level 350, winds 242 at 5 knots. Pretty calm actually. Flight level 200, winds from 216 at 13 knots. So that'll help the plane do its thing for VNav and ALNav, I assume. I'm not 100% positive about that, but I just started really recently doing that on the Airbuses too, but I got to find out really why we do this, but I think it really helps in planning, or the plane's computers plan how to get you down, you know, VNav, LNav, all that good stuff. So once that's done, I like to click back over to RTE. Take off. And what I like to do at this point is we're going to need some data from our EFB. So I go over to the, actually, that's not what I would do. We're going to move our EFB over by clicking on this click spot right here where it says Boeing 777. Now we get EFB with that ghost hand. Ooh, scary. So what we're going to do at this point is we're going to go to the performance tool. We're going to enter in some data that it's requesting. So we can see it's calculated out. The takeoff will be at flaps 5. We click on 5, puts it down to the scratch pad. Enter it there. It's already given us some basic V1, V rotate, and V2 speeds. But we want to tweak it a little bit more. So center of gravity, if you double click here, it's going to give you 24.2. Click it again. It sets that at 24%, and it's going to tell you your trim should be 3.5 for takeoff. Click over to thrust limit. And what we're looking here is the cell temp, which is 41. So we're going to type in 41 to the scratch pad and click on SEL. This wants a TO2 rating, so we'll give it what it wants. We'll click back to take off. Now we have some data for V1 rotates and V2 speed, so we can zoom in on the CDU here. So to accept these, you basically just click them. It's saying, hey, this is what we've calculated out. So to accept that, you click the soft key next to it, or the button, and you can see it puts it into this almost like a bolded capital font. We'll do the same thing for VR, and we'll do the same thing for V2. And at that point, the I almost said McDo, or MCDU. The CDU is programmed, and you're good to go. So what I like to do at that point then is to enter some data into my MCP up here. So I like to set my speed to our V2 speed. So our V2 speed is 135. So we'll Roll this down to 135. Like so. We're going to turn on both flight directors. See, they both came on. We can turn LNAV on. We can turn VNAV on. Heading to the runway heading. So we can do that. You know what? Let's get the EFB back to its initial location here. So there's another click spot to get it back. So you basically click over on this mount, I guess you could say. Click it and that'll be back. So let's look to see what our runway heading is. So we can go to the electronic flight bag. We can go to our departure, airport of KPAE. We know it's runway 34, so let's take a look at that. Runway 34 is on a heading of 343. We can go back and enter that into the heading 343. And then we also want to set our altitude, whether it's going to be up to cruise if you want, or if there's any restrictions. So let's take a look. There were no SIDs on here, so I don't really, let's see, is there anything? We need to be 34 right. That's just obstacles. It doesn't really look like there's any restrictions. So I'm just going to crank it up to our cruising altitude of, let's take a look, what was that again? 40,000 feet, or flight level 400. Now, on your altitude knob here, you have, if you just scroll it, it's going to go in hundreds. But there's a little click spot right here. See where it changed from that to that little different cursor there? If you click there, I'm going to swap it over to 1,000, and now we can roll it up to 40,000 feet. Like so. Next thing I like to do is set my auto brakes to rejected takeoff, RTO. At that point, we can go ahead and turn on the APU. So that means we go up to the overhead. And the APU can go to start, and it'll flip back to on, and it'll start to do its thing. You can monitor that on the hydraulic page here, and it will tell you when it's up and running, but you can also monitor it via the hydraulic page. Get that wrong. Excuse me, I'm learning this as we go. No, not the air page. Picture? No. Hydraulic? Engine? Not that. Which one is it? Oh, here we go. Like the APU starting to fire up. I believe. Kind of hear it. We could see the exhaust coming from the APU, so we know it's starting to fire up. So we'll let that do its thing. We should get APU running. Okay, I think we're good to go now. So if we APU gen, not really sure how to read all this. I really need to do a deeper dive into this, but this is more of, hey, this is how you get this beast up and running. So once the APU is running, we can go back up to our overhead and we can turn off the external power. Make sure they're both off. They should stay avail when they're both off. And from there, you can go down to the EFB, ground operations, the ground power, and you can release that because we're not going to need that anymore. Once that is gone, verify that. Yep, GPU is gone. So now we can start to prepare for pushback, or in this case, we're not really pushing back. We're just basically going to be driving this beast straight out of here. So back over to the overhead, and we can turn on the fuel pumps. Right pumps forward and aft, left pumps forward and aft. They should all come on. Back to the EFB, we can remove our chocks. Gone. Next thing you want to do is make sure all doors are closed and armed. So door management, we're going to close all. And then arm all. You can see they're all armed right now. Now we're ready for pushback and engine start, but in this case, since we're not pushing back, we're just going to click on the pen over here, because why not? That's fun. Cool. Okay, so engine start would be next. Pushback would be obviously at this point, but like I said, there's no pushback because we're driving this beast straight out of here to 34 left, or 34 right, which should be down here. 34, not 34. We can monitor a EFIS, I believe this is called. And if you want to check, these are basically telling you, hey, you still have some issues going on here. TCAS is off, hydraulic system pressure. Obviously, since the engines aren't started, that would, you know, be a warning. Engines are shut down, obviously, but if you want to see if there's anything new, you can click on this cancel recall button over here. So it'll clear it out. You click it again, and it looks like it's all the same. Basically, we're getting the hydraulic pressure because the engines aren't on. Obviously, because the engines are shut down. TCAS is on standby right now, and not really sure what brake source is, but again, something I still need to learn. No worries. So now we are ready for start, since there is no push. So for start, to the overhead, beacon lights come on. We're going to start with the left engine first. Some of these 777s, these are the GEs. Some of these, you can start both engines at the same time. There's no wait for one to become available and start the second. I'm not quite sure with the GEs, but we're going to do them one at a time anyway. So up to the overhead, you look for the engine start for left. And you slide it over to start. Come down and you give it some fuel. And it should start to spin. And it's going to start to fire up. We should see that. As it starts to come alive. and N1 is starting to raise. So basically, you kind of wait till the stabilizes out, and then we'll start engine right engine. We started the left first. That looks like it's stabilized nicely. Back over to the overhead. And engine right to start. Feed it some fuel. That will eventually start to come alive also. N1 is rising. See, we've already, some of these warning messages have already disappeared. Engine shutdown was one of them. And I think the hydraulic pressure for the left engine. And again, it says hydraulic pressure down L. I'm not quite sure what that is. I don't want to really get that detailed into it. I just want to be able to get this plane up and going, and this is the quickest way I have found. That's going to stabilize out, and you can see both of the engine switches have gone back to norm. So at that point, we can shut down the APU. Now we can turn on our hydraulics. So I found, again, you could, if you're not following real world, you could just pretty much click to get these all on. But I found another video that said the standard way to do this, and I don't know if this is true or not, but I'm going to take what he said as gospel. But it's on the interweb, so who knows. So what you're supposed to do is R electric auto. Light will go out. Electric C1 and C2, you turn them on, the fault lights will both go out. Left electric auto, fault lights out. And then air C1 and C2 both go to auto, also fault lights go out. And now just looking at the overhead, there are no indicator lights. What am I trying to say here? No indicator lights that were in amber. So to me, that looks good. If we go down into the cockpit, we're going to click on cancel recall, and it's basically saying, hey, yep, the only thing you have to worry about now is TCAS is off. So that's cool. Engines are running, hydraulics are going, APU is off. At this point, we're going to set some trim. What was our trim? Go over to here to weight and balance. Nope, not weight and balance. In our performance tool. No, it's not here. It's back over here. 4.5. So we're going to set our trim to 4.5. And here's trim. So you can use these, or I have on my Honeycomb BRAVO, it has a trim wheel, which I'm going to use to set this to 4.5. So that's nose up. So we want to roll the trim wheel. I will eventually start to move here. There it is, down to 4.25, and there's 4.5. Trim is set. So at this point, we are ready to taxi. Go to taxi. Up in the overhead. Taxi lights Come on. Everything looks cool up here. No amber lights. I like to go down to my pedestal here. Turn this to TA only. That should extinguish that one warning, which it did. Want to see if you got any other warnings or error messages here. Not sure if they're really called error messages, but warnings, I guess. You just click on cancel recall, clears it, and there's nothing. They're all good to go. So this plane technically is ready to taxi out to the runway. So let's do that. So let's take a look at our chart here. And we're going to, 34 left. So did I choose the right runway? 34 left. Okay. When I said 34 right forward, 34 right. So 34 left. So basically that is going to be a can't do the pencil in here. Then we will go out A3 down A10 or A9. 34 left, so let's go ahead and do that. That should be A3 right there. We're gonna go left, hook another left onto taxiway A here, or Alpha, taxiway Alpha. Take it all the way down to Alpha 10 or Alpha 9. I knew I forgot something. So you also want at this point to set your flaps. So in the Boeing, you do that multiple ways. You can click on the number here. These are click spots, 1, 5, 15, 20, 25, 30. Or in my case, I'm going to use my Honeycomb BRAVO. So I'm going to move my trim lever to 5. It's going to set it. See, the flaps are trim lever, flap lever. Yeah, okay. So there you go, flaps 5. Beautiful. Now we are truly ready to taxi. Get this beast going. So parking brakes have to come off, which are right here. So you either flip them off with the switch there or with the handle there. I like to use my rudder pedal, so I press down on my rudder pedals to apply the brakes. I have a switch on my Honeycomb BRAVO. Now my parking brakes are released. We can give it a little juice via the throttles, and we're starting to move. Let it away, Tug. This is a big plane, so these are a little bit more difficult to, at least I find it a little bit more difficult to navigate. Keep it on the taxiway lines. Yeah. Something like that. Click my center. It looks like the point that I use to determine if I'm on center line or not is right about here. That's pretty close. Between the altitude tape and actually it's right next to the altitude. I think with guiding this beast out, you got to kind of overshoot where you want to turn. And I'm not using the rudder pedals for this. I have a Virpil light stick, and it's got a twist axis, so I use that for my tiller, basically. Now we'll come back over the center line. Not too bad. A little more juice to taxi out. A takeoff procedure for the 777, and I believe this applies for the 737 too. I could be wrong. I haven't flown the 737 in a long time. Once PMDG gets that over to 24, then I will start flying again. But for the 777, it's basically you increase your throttles to N1's about 40%. Let it stabilize out, and then you hit the toga button. There are toga buttons on my throttles. They are from ProDeskSim. They have a working toga button and a working auto throttle disconnect. We slowly maneuver out the 34L. A beautiful day in the Pacific Northwest here, by the way. Or at least in flight sim it is. I'm not running real weather. This is just, again, this was just a video just to go over cold and dark to take off my procedure. What I came up with works, you know, to get me up and going as quick as possible. I like starting at cold and dark. I don't like starting on the runway already fired up. I mean, to me, it's about sim. So sim to me means at least, you know, start from that cold and dark state. But if you like to start on the runway all powered up, feel free. Have at it. Play the sim any way you want. Whatever makes you happy. Didn't somebody have a song about that at one point? Probably. We'll taxi down. We'll give it a little bit more juice here. Rolling, rolling, rolling. Ground speed's about 11 knots. I'll restart. Don't want to get too fast there. Bunch of Southwest planes over there. Yeah. Some fresh off the assembly line Boeings over there. What they could be, 737 Maxes? I don't even know. I'm not all that great at identifying Boeings. Airbuses, that I can do. Boeing, not so much. Excuse me, just burped there again. Jeez Louise. Go down to Alpha 10 or Alpha 10. The 10, I guess you would say. Oh, it's pretty light plane, so. V1's 122. There's Alpha 9. Alpha 10 is coming up. We'll pull up at the hold short line here and just finish my little flow. So, feet on the brakes. So at this point, Overhead landing lights can come on. Strobe should come on. Do a quick visual up there. Everything looks cool. No amber lights. U is off. Hydraulics are good. All right. We can roll it out to the runway. Line up and take off. That's just telling us there's a lot of, there's some checklists that you should, but I didn't go through any of the checklists, but you can do, it's basically telling me, hey, you've never completed your checklist, but that's okay. So, we're lined up on 3-4 left, ready to go into the wild blue yonder, so we'll clear that. Let's do a cancel recall. Other than the checklist, there's nothing there, so procedure, throttles to N1 is about 40%. It would be about here someplace. Once they stabilize out, start to roll, then you hit the toga button and take off. Rotate, as they say. Now let's start spooling these engines up. Overshot 40%, but that's okay. It's roughly about 45 or 44 and a half. Little forward pressure till 80 knots. Now we can hit the toga button. $80 knots, release forward pressure on the yoke. V1 and rotate. There was no call out. Careful tail strike. Positive rate gear can come up. And you should be following your flight directors at this point. We can raise our flaps. We're above the up indicator. And this actually wanted us to go to, what I like to do is wait till I'm about 500 feet AGL and then click on autopilot, so we can do that now. And it should make a nice turn to our first waypoint. Ah, it's so cool looking. Gorgeous. First waypoint is, what was it? Harbor? H-A-R-O-B. We are up and away. At this point, taxi lights can come off. Oh, not that. TCAS T-A-R-A. And we wait for our 10,000 feet routines, which are landing lights off. And then whenever it's nice and clear up here, turbulence-wise, we can flip off the seatbelt signs and let the cattle in the back roam. Come through 8,300, 8,400 feet. There's 9,000. And to the overhead, landing lights can come off. The seatbelts can come off. And that's just gonna about do it for me today. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Maybe you learned something, maybe you didn't. Maybe I'm just a crappy teacher, I don't know. I really enjoy this. Simming in general, but it was really cool. So I just wanted to get my head wrapped around getting the 777 from cold and dark to takeoff. At that point, I'm going to leave you. Have a wonderful evening, morning, afternoon, wherever you're at again. If you like this type of video, give me a like, maybe subscribe. This is King Bob from King Bob's Kingdom, wishing you all cheers, and I will see you again. See ya.